Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Lancaster County Council. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lancaster County Council to order.
Order, Mike.
It's on. I guess I got to get into it. I'd like to call this meeting of Lancaster County Council to order. I ask that the clerk note for the record that a quorum of council is present, that the public notice of the meeting, including the meeting agenda, has been posted the required length of time in the lobby of the County Administration Building and on the county website, and that the news media was notified of the meeting time and place. I welcome you to your county council meeting. I would ask that you take a moment to turn off or place on vibrate any cell phones or pagers. Thank you for not wearing any hats or caps in the council chambers, and please be considerate of others in the room by refraining from conversations during the meeting. I ask that you please stand and join council for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation given this evening by Council Member Neal.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, God, we just thank you for this day, God. We just thank you for the many blessings you've given us. Just thank you for each one that's here tonight, God. Just thank you for them, and just be with us, lead, guide, and direct us as we make the decisions for the citizens of Lancaster County, and just give us safe travels home. We ask it in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Do we have any changes to the agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Mr. McGriff. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Okay. Now we're going to move on to citizens' comments. Please bear in mind that this is not a period of dialogue with council or a question and answer period. This is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. I ask that you address your remarks to council as a body and not to any individual council members. Please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to address council. Your time will not start until you have provided your name and address. Okay, our first speaker, Brandy Baker.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandy Baker. I was on Lancaster Motor Speedway, and I guess they're going to put a school up there trying to. We're just concerned about if you put a school up there, then sooner or later people's going to, want to shut the racetrack down. That's our concern. The more they build around the racetrack, because a lot of racetracks in different towns have been shut down. And that's what we're worried about. There's a lot of dust up there, and we went through this one time before. They wanted to build houses right beside the racetrack, and that was going to be a problem. There's woods around the racetrack, and that's kind of what we want to keep, woods around the racetrack, And if they need to build a school, there is some more land right there below it that we own. I don't know how many acres they need, but that way they can still leave some trees around the racetrack. Keep the noise and the dust down, because when we're racing, they come in there and they're going to be dusting the air conditioners in the winters, and, they're going to be complaining. And then next thing you know, they're going to, we're already getting complaints now. People done built houses around below the racetrack, and been talking to some of the people, and the real estate people told them the racetrack was closed, and they sold it. They told them a lie. And now they're complaining, they didn't know they know there's a racetrack there, but they thought it was closed. But the more people close to that racetrack, they're going to try to shut it down. That's what we don't want in the future.
Thank you. Jeff Knight.
I guess we talk about the school.
Give us your name and address, please.
What's that?
Your address.
2422 Robert Usher Road in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Thank you.
I guess my concern we just purchased some property that I think that the sewer's gonna run through for the school. I don't know if this is, I'm out of breath, I run up here. I don't know if this is the meeting to ask. I don't know, we just bought this property a couple weeks ago, and I think the route that they want to run the sewer to get to this school is coming through our property. Is this the right time to, I mean, before this is approved, to find out about that, or? Because we know nothing about, besides I spoke to the people the last meeting whenever we changed it to commercial property, and so that's all we really know about it, that they were going to, run it up through there. Is this the time to ask that, or?
You should be contacted by the Water and Sewer District if they're going to try to access your property.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I've ever had to deal with this, so I didn't really know, I didn't have much time to think about it neither before I got here, so, they'll be getting hold of me.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Gene Doyle.
Good evening, Jean Doyle, 6030 Kings Canyon Way, Lancaster. Good evening, thanks for having me tonight. Due to travel and classes, it's been a couple of months since I've been here. But I have been saving up some notes and some articles from the Lancaster News that does a great job of reporting on what the council is up to. In the February 1st issue, the headline was "County to Grow by 71% in 25 Years." That's an astounding number, nothing that we haven't heard multiple times over the last few months. We're supposed to reach 200,000 people by 2050. Union County in North Carolina is doing the same thing. They're growing by 60% in the same time frame. Both counties are plagued by the same lack of planning for sustainable infrastructure. I mention Union County because this area overlaps with travel in and out of Lancaster County. The growth along 521, again, has been talked about ad nauseum, but every time I drive past Costco and Target and everybody talks about how excited they are, I'm like, ugh, I'm not so excited. I'm still in a state of shock that these locations were so swiftly approved. On a recent Thursday, I had to go from downtown Waxhaw down to the Chase Bank in Ballantyne and back to my house off of Van Wyck Road. 1 hour and 40 minutes, 25 miles. Seriously? Hopefully by 2050, there'll be some sustainable planning for infrastructure, particularly roads and traffic. Unfortunately, I won't live long enough to see that. I also wish we could attract more businesses that produce jobs with good pay and benefits versus retail and fast food. On February 26th in the Lancaster News was an article about bonds for new fire equipment. It would appear that the county is in dire need of equipment, but in addition to that equipment, we're in need for incremental equipment as well as the personnel to staff the equipment. I still live in a fire district that is serviced by volunteer firemen. My builder had to buy an acre of land for an EMS outpost. The land is sitting there, but there's no budget for it. On March 1st, there was an article that talked about an additional $500,000 for a new coroner's office. I just find it mind-boggling that so many projects are always over budget here. And then on March 22nd, I read Mr. Luis's article about more overspending. And I won't go into the details. I think every council member is aware of what you approved, funding for public works to clean up old tires, as well as a staggering $900,000 for a project to improve road servicing only 17 homes. I'm quite certain many of you own your own businesses. You don't run your businesses with budgets like that. There is not an endless pot of money. Pretend you're spending your own money when you're making these decisions. It isn't a popularity contest. You've been elected to be fiscally responsible with your constituents' money, and I hope you keep that in mind in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Yates Dunaway.
Good evening, Council. Yates Dunaway, 319 Heathwood Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm just here in case there are any questions for agenda item 8C. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have some electronic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and council members, y'all have a physical copy of this comment at your seat. It is from Geraldine Evans in Lancaster, South Carolina. She wrote in regarding her strong opposition to the proposed Cogito Academy due to the development being too large, unwanted in the community, and leading to increased traffic congestion. And that's the only electronic agenda.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to move on now to special presentations. Item 6A is recognition of Indian Lands Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 12136, for their Sheriff's Officer of the Year Award and EMS Paramedic of the Year Award, presented by Mr. Bob Suzansky and Greg Beckwith. If you gentlemen would come forward.
We on the clock here?
No, sir, you're not.
All right, I'm not sure of the format here. I think we need to invite one of the people up here. Let's start with Dylan. Dylan? Dylan, the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office has nominated you for the VFW Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Award. You were selected for your unwavering dedication to public service, professionalism, and steadfast commitment to the Lancaster County community. In layman's terms, that means your superiors like you. You were born and raised in Long Island, New York. I also hail from. And you attended college there, where you received a degree in criminal justice. And it seems that you graduated in the top 12% of your class. Well done. Your background includes extensive service to the Metropolitan, I wanted to say Tallahassee, but Nashville Police Department, as well as the TKK Police Department when you moved to South Carolina. And subsequently, you joined the Lancaster County Police Department. Currently, you play a pivotal role in many capacities within the Sheriff's Office because of your well-rounded experience. I knew I needed my glasses. You are now serving as a field training officer, preparing recruits to be well-groomed deputies. You're also a member, an active member, of the Nassau County SWAT team, SWAT, where you deal in dangerous and high-risk situations. Dylan, from the perspective of the VFW, you, as well as all your brethren in the law enforcement arena, deserve all the credit, all the recognition for all your sacrifices and contributions to our community. That being said, I want to present you with a certificate of appreciation for your service in law enforcement, being Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, and as well as a monetary award which I'm sure you'll find some way to use. This is the certificate. I'll hold on to the money. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Face is plastered all over the place. Danny, the Lancaster County EMS highly recommended you for the VFW Paramedic of the Year for your boundless abilities and high regard for patients' well-being and your partner's safety. I was also impressed with a recent article that I read in the Lancaster News, naming you as Paramedic of the Year for 2024. And I believe that was a state award.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. At the, Debbie Henson Award Ceremony in Columbia. Another thing that caught my eye was an incident that Terry Faulkner, the Lancaster County EMS compliance officer, conveyed about you in a letter of recommendation, which I wish to read. It says, Danny is the type of paramedic that can be partnered with anyone. And I have full confidence that no matter what situation may arise, he can be counted on to lead the call in a professional manner. Now listen to what comes next. You can't make this up. Just recently, Danny found himself in a situation that many might find intimidating. During a cardiac arrest call, he was attacked by a dog to get themselves and the patient in the back. Danny and his EMS partner eventually managed to get themselves and the patient in the back of the ambulance where they were safe. Just picture yourself in that situation. Get the dog. They headed to the hospital, and about, Dylan, where were you in such a situation? They headed to the hospital, and about 6 miles into transport, the tire blew. Boom. And the ambulance, and they were stranded. Danny's care for his patient and composure never altered. Moments later, another ambulance was able to meet them, and they swapped ambulance and resumed the transport. There is never any doubt that Danny can handle any crisis he finds himself in. Danny, can you tell us now, are you really that cool, calm, and collected?
On the outside.
Yeah. Many other positive things that were written about Danny, but I just want to draw your attention to is one additional item I considered most noteworthy. Danny is a military combat medic and served one tour of duty in Kuwait. I can't say enough about the role a combat medic plays. Being a combat veteran myself, I witnessed many lives that were saved by our medics. I can see Danny is a person devoted to serving his fellow man and to his country. I am proud that you are our choice for for VFW Paramedic of the Year in Lancaster County. Congratulations, Danny. Danny, don't open the envelope, there's a dog in there.
Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6B now. Danny, if you'll come back to the podium. We're going to recognize Danny as the South Carolina EMS Paramedic of the Year, presented by Mr. Daniel Wilson.
Good evening, members of council. In addition to the VFW award that Danny just received, this year he was also named South Carolina EMS Association Paramedic of the Year. This title is awarded to recipients who possess outstanding qualities such as leadership, exceptional patient care, and mentorship. And I'd like to put a special focus on the mentorship piece. I think it's the true testament of a leader when they find themselves comfortable enough in their own skin that they can share their experiences with others that are coming up through the ranks, and Danny certainly does that. He's an exceptional young man. The service is blessed to have him, and I really can't wait to see what he does next. So, ladies and gentlemen, Danny Hyatt.
We're going to move to item 6C, recognition of Employee of the Quarter for 2025 first quarter, presented by County Administrator Dennis Marstall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. There's always a highlight. Now we've had the accolades tonight of some of just two of our dynamic county employees. Every quarter, we do a quarter one for general government and then one for public safety. So we've run a little bit about our workforce. We have roughly 700 full-time employees. Through everything from the sheriff's office, parks and recreation, as I say, we do everything from A to Z, clerk's office to zoning. And so a lot of people you don't get to see out front, as you see with our public safety folks. So certainly people you want to know who are doing the work for the county. And so this is always a highlight. We do this once a quarter. And we're going to have on the screen the folks who are nominated by their coworkers. And so there's not a shortage of nominees this go around. So certainly happy to highlight that we have a lot of folks doing a lot of good things who everyone I think deserves some recognition. But some who stand out this time. I know some folks are here and want to offer a certificate. And then I will announce the employee of the quarter based on this. Amber Boyd is here. Jennifer Bryan. Blake Champion's here from EMS. Come up here, Blake.
And we want to congratulate all of you for being recognized by your peers. We're going to move on to item 6D, Community Needs Assessment Public Hearing. Review of community needs and prioritization of community needs for 2025, and review of upcoming community development block grants opportunities. Ms. Elizabeth Morgan from the Catawba Regional Council of Governments. Thank you for being with us.
Assessment. Oh, wow. I will just go over the county's Citizens Participation Plan. So Lancaster County has adopted a Citizens Participation Plan, which outlines the following steps to ensure citizen participation. Lancaster County will hold public hearings to make Citizen Participation Plan available for public review. All public hearings will be advertised in a newspaper of general circulation, and these notices of public hearing will be printed in the non-legal section 7 days prior to the public hearing. The notice for this public hearing was published in the Lancaster News. Efforts will be made to inform citizens who may be affected by a community development block grant project, but who might not be reached through formal newspaper notices. This will include the distribution of notices to local organizations or posting in places likely to be seen by citizens. So for this public hearing, they were posted in municipal buildings. All public hearings concerning the CDBG program will be held at times convenient to citizens in places which are convenient to citizens and which are accessible to disabled persons if requested. At least one public hearing will be held prior to the development of a community development block grant application to solicit public comment on community needs and priorities for economic development, housing, and public facilities, including the needs of low and moderate income persons. At this public hearing, Lancaster County will present the community needs which have been identified in its needs assessment and take into account additional public comment. At the hearing, Lancaster County will present information concerning the CDBG program, including the amount of funds available, state funding guidelines, and the range of activities which are eligible for CDBG funding. Lancaster County will provide technical assistance to group representatives of low and moderate income persons, which represent assistance in developing proposals for community development block grant funding, and give approval for providing technical assistance after a written request is received. After the development of an application, Lancaster County will hold a public hearing to discuss the application, including the purpose of the proposed project, the amount of funds being requested, and the total project cost. Lancaster County has researched and determined that less than 5% of the population of Lancaster County is non-English speaking, and there are no significant concentrations of non-English speaking residents. If 5% or more of the potential or actual beneficiaries of a project are determined to be non-English speaking, provisions will be made at the appropriate public hearing for translation of comments and documents into native language of the majority of the non-English speaking residents affected. Any grievances concerning citizens' participation should be put in writing and addressed to the county administrator. Citizens will be provided with reasonable access to records concerning any project undertaken by CDBG funds. Requests for project review can be made in writing and addressed to Lancaster County. Upon receipt of this request, Lancaster County shall allow the citizens to review the records at the county administration building. Lancaster County will hold a public hearing when all activities are completed and before the CDBG project is closed out to review project performance and accomplishments. A public hearing will be held before any substantial change is made to any CDBG project. This includes changing the budget or the scope or type of activities. Lancaster County does not discriminate on the basis of disability status in the administration or access to, treatment, or employment in its federally assisted programs and activities. The Lancaster County Building and Zoning Official has been designated to coordinate compliance with the non-discrimination requirements contained in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's regulations implemented in Section 504. Upon request, assistance will be provided to accommodate the special needs of persons with disabilities. And anyone that wants to see the Citizens Participation Plan, it is on file at the County Administration Building. Next, we will note that Lancaster County supports and encourages fair housing practices for equal access to housing opportunities for all residents regardless of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, familial status, marital status, age, ancestry, sexual orientation, source of income, and/or other arbitrary reasons. I believe April is Fair Housing Month, and Lancaster has posted fair housing information. Okay, so now we will talk about the Community Development Block Grant Program. We do have a presentation, so you can follow along with the slides. The community, do I need to point it? Oh, there we go. The Community Development Block Grant Program is a program of HUD. Okay. Oh, I went too far. So what is CDBG? CDBG is a program funded by the Housing and Urban Development Administration, administered in South Carolina by the South Carolina Department of Commerce, Division of Grants Administration. It is designed to provide assistance to units of local government in providing economic opportunities and meeting community revitalization needs, particularly for low and moderate income persons. So only local governments can apply for community development block grant money, which includes towns, cities, and counties, and they cannot be within an entitlement area. In our region, the only entitlement area is the city of Rock Hill. Only local governments can receive direct access, no businesses, no individuals, no nonprofits, or water or sewer authorities. All CDBG projects must meet two factors: meet all national objectives and address an eligible activity. National objectives are that they benefit low to moderate income persons, aid in the prevention of blight or elimination of slums, meet other urgent community development needs, which we will get into that. In Lancaster County, the areas that you see in this map that are shaded in yellow are identified by HUD and from the 2020 census as LMI, or low to moderate income areas. So as far as city limits go, the areas within Lancaster County that are citywide LMI are the town of Lancaster, so the city of Lancaster, and the town of Heath Springs. So Kershaw, I think, was at one time, and that has fallen off of the list from the last census. So even though you can kind of see in the map that the areas around Kershaw are LMI, the actual town limits of Kershaw are no longer low and moderate income. So eligible activities, public improvements, water, sewer, roads, drainage, brownfields projects, downtown streetscapes, planning projects for local infrastructure, library facilities or equipment for internet connectivity, and publicly owned child care facilities for children 12 and under. Other activities include publicly owned facilities for educational or workforce training, police substations, not an actual police station, but a substation located in an LMI community, demolition of vacant, dilapidated residential structures in an LMI area, fire substations or fire trucks for existing stations serving LMI residential areas, and publicly owned health or social service facilities or equipment. Couple more. Facilities, modifications to address ADA, newer upgraded sidewalks in LMI areas, parks, trails, and greenways in LMI areas. The Community Development Block Grant Program is competitive, so it is a grant application that is competitive across the state of South Carolina. Offered twice a year, the minimum grant is $50,000. The maximum depends on the project, and we will go through those. It does have a 10% match required by the municipality, and it must be an eligible activity and meet a national objective. Okay, the different development programs throughout the grant, there's community infrastructure, community enrichment, local priorities, the Ready to Go program, and business development. So how much can we apply for? So for the community development, like we said, the minimum is $50,000. Oh, there we go. The maximum for each project, community infrastructure, is $1 million, community enrichment is $750,000, local priorities is $300,000, and Ready to Go is $500,000. As we said, there is a 10% match in the form of cash, non-commerce grants, waiver of fees, public or private investments, and documented volunteer in-kind services for the project. The Business Development Program assistance is generally in the form of public infrastructure to assist a business or industry in locating or expanding. Typically, a company must commit to the creation and/or retention of jobs that at least 51% of the jobs will be filled by LMI persons. For the spring application round, application requests were due March 21st, and completed applications are due on April 21st. The fall application round, application requests will be due August 15th, and the applications themselves will be due September 15th. So in the spring round, infrastructure projects, water, sewer, and drainage were eligible. And for the fall round, we can look at community enrichment programs like brownfield projects, downtown streetscapes, planning, library facilities, publicly owned childcare, transportation-related facilities, public safety facilities, demolition of vacant or dilapidated buildings, fire substations or fire trucks, publicly owned health and/or social service facilities, and sidewalks. I'm not sure if this is going to update. There we go. To the next one. And then finally, with the local priorities projects, they can be used for alternative grant activities that you identify within your community. They can include historic preservation, innovation projects, energy conservation, parks, trails, greenways, projects that impact economic development, projects that address long-term health and safety, quality of life. They must serve an LMI area, and they can also address resiliency and bridging the digital divide. For the Ready to Go program, the project must be an eligible public facility improvement under the Community Infrastructure, Community Enrichment, or Local Priority Program. And all required project activities leading up to building must be completed prior to applying for the submission. So the environmental review, design, acquisition permits, it truly must be ready to go, or shovel ready, as some people call it. All the background work must already be done. Okay, and before we get to public comments, I think, Council, you've also got a list of the prioritized community needs from 2024. So we can review that list and then open it up for comment from Council to make any changes that they want to make for the 2025 priority needs list. So from 2024, the priority needs list, number one was to upgrade public facilities in Lancaster County to include parks, recreational facilities, libraries, and other public buildings. This can include the upgrade and/or construction of fire stations and the purchase of fire trucks. Can also include upgrades to county facilities, improvements to provide accessibility to disabled persons, or energy improvements to reduce operating burdens and promote sustainability. Upgrade, number two, is to upgrade and extend water and sewer services in low and moderate income areas, including the upgrade of the Kershaw wastewater treatment plant and the extension of the services to the King Circle area, the Kershaw Mill area, and the Dobson School area, and the Emerald Estates area. Number three, demolish vacant, dilapidated structures in low and moderate income neighborhoods. Number four, activities to clear brownfield areas. Number five, undertake neighborhood revitalization activities in low and moderate income areas, including the Dobson School area, Kershaw Mill area, Irwin Farm area, and Emerald Estates area, to include the following: clearance and cleanup, infrastructure upgrades to include but not limited to transportation, sidewalks, transit, water, sewer, gas, electrical, and communications to include internet, wireless, and broadband, housing rehabilitation, activities to include affordable housing, job training and educational opportunities, socioeconomic assistance. Number six, seek funding to better address services and activities for the homeless, including support for a homeless shelter in Lancaster County. Number seven, promote economic development and job creation activities through provision of infrastructure to potential and expanding businesses and industries, and through the provision of workforce development training to residents and industries through direct county grant match funding and provision of in-kind services. Locate recreational facilities and social service agencies in the northern panhandle of the county. This would put these services within closer proximity to the people who use them and eliminate the need for driving into the city of Lancaster. Number nine, seek funding to address housing needs to include rehabilitation, affordable housing, and down payment and closing cost assistance. Number 10, undertake activities to promote fair housing opportunities for all citizens. We can open it up to any comments.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I have a couple of comments. That was a lot to ingest.
Yes, yeah, if you've got any questions, let me know. I know that's a lot of information.
My question is, what projects are active in our county, and the ones that we've completed from this list, if any?
I'm not aware that any from this list have been completed to date. Lancaster County does not currently have a community development block grant, but there are community development block grant projects within Lancaster County. So the city of Lancaster, well, I take that back. Lancaster County does have one that the city of Lancaster is a subrecipient for, which is Municipal Justice Park. And then Arch Area Sidewalk is one of City of Lancaster's projects as well. So there's 2 projects in the city of Lancaster, a sidewalk and then upgrades to Municipal Justice Park. I believe Kershaw has a project, and Heath Springs has a park project as well.
Okay. And according to this priority list for community needs, Dennis, is it possible we could give you our list Wednesday? Unless, you know, to go through this would be very cumbersome.
Absolutely, you can give us the list Wednesday or on the side over the course of the week. To keep in mind, so if you see on the graph, I'm sorry what page, and maybe page 3, where they show where the LMI areas are for Lancaster County. So we are challenged to find projects in there, but there are 3, as you did here. It's good that we have on the needs, the number 1 is about upgrade public facilities, because that will allow us to potentially get a fire truck. But again, part of the issue is, does the fire, if you look at these, for instance, there's only a few places where she just said Kershaw as this town no longer qualifies as LMI within the limits, but outside of it. So there was a conversation earlier, does the fire truck have to serve the entire LMI area? But if it goes into non-LMI areas, is it still eligible? So we're trying to get the eligibility confirmed on that. But our intent is to try to find a fire truck to use as a grant project going forward. Or 2 other projects we've talked about internally is if there's something with the historic courthouse, because that would fall in LMI, but also fall within parameters. And then ultimately, if there's any interest in doing any upgrade to the facility where the EMS station is, the old library by the Marion Bone Fields outside of Kershaw. So those could be 3 projects that we would entertain some more conversation from council.
And that was going to be my follow-up questions, that I'm sure that you're on top of what Lancaster can apply for. Even though me and Brian, we're on the board, you know, when Lancaster comes up, or when it's anything that we can approve for Lancaster, it really helps us out in making a decision. Just want to make sure that you are following through on what we can and cannot apply for.
We've had many conversations with COG, and we'll continue to get something done.
And one other question, I saw something about transportation. I don't know which number it was here.
On the prioritized needs or in the?
On the community needs list.
One, the eligibility too, but what is the eligibility?
Eligibility. And I thought maybe, you know, dealing with LARS, maybe it's something that we could do with transportation to help out LARS in any way that we can, if possible.
And that's something we can look at. Again, the hard part is that you have to show that when you're looking at a community building, so for example, like the child care, the library, the transportation, we have to show that 51% of the people that will benefit from whatever project it is are low and moderate income. So that means income surveys asking people for what their household income is. And with that transportation, that's very hard to do because you can't really kick somebody off the bus if they're not LMI. So unless you can show that everyone is LMI, or that 51% of the ridership is LMI, it's just a little more of a moving target for those projects. But we can definitely look into it and add that, you know, as a note. And then one of the other things is with the fire truck or any of the projects, just to keep in mind these are competitive. So, you know, they are a grant application that we send into the state, and we are competing with the rest of South Carolina. And the funding restraints are there too. So there's different funding levels for different projects. So you could pay for part of a fire truck, but it wouldn't pay for the entire cost of a fire truck, but it would help. So that's definitely projects that we've got on the list, and we'll continue to look at the funding sources and the eligibility.
All right. Thank you.
So just going back to the question about eligibility, so it has to be 51% service of LMI individuals?
They're the beneficiaries of the project, correct?
So if we were to do a park, we would have to show that 51% of the users of the park are LMI
Correct.
beneficiaries?
So like in the city of Lancaster, because city of Lancaster is an LMI citywide designation, we can say that the majority of the residents using the park will be LMI because it is located within the city center of city of Lancaster, which is LMI. And so CDBG looks at that and says, okay, that, we can understand that. It's a little harder to do countywide, like a county park that's not in an incorporated LMI area, because exactly what you just said, it's hard to show that 51% of the people using the park would be LMI. So typically county parks that are not located in a city that is LMI are not eligible.
And so when you're talking about non-incorporated areas, how do you designate that kind of rate? Is there a radius?
So it's just census designation. So like on the map here, so when the census comes out and they get the data back and they look at the areas, the yellow areas are what they've designated LMI. The city of Lancaster population has enough LMI that it's over 51%, so they get a citywide designation. So if we were to do, say, like a water and sewer project outside of one of these city designated areas, we do what are called gosh, the word just went out of my head. But we have to go door to door and ask people to their household income. And we have to prove that of the people that the project will serve, enough of them are 51% low and moderate income that it will benefit them.
I got a question.
So there's challenges, but it's not, it's not,
I'm just
we
thinking
do it and it
it's
happens.
the challenge on the fire truck, because then how do you
Right, with fire truck, it's a little more difficult unless you can say it's only going to serve these communities, and we would do income surveys in those areas.
I got a question. Dennis,
Constant.
the city or the county apply for some of this for revitalizing Gay Street where they're doing down there on where the old jail and stuff is? Could that possibly? I'm sure it is.
What was the
Yes.
street? Revitalizing what street?
Gay Street?
Gay Street, G-A-Y, Gay Street, downtown. Yeah, that could be a candidate, and we can work with the city, and we can apply on their behalf.
That's kind of where I was,
to look
that's
for
where I
that.
was going with it. To me, this is a county-city partnership that makes sense to identify and use the resources to either financially back it or, come to some kind of agreement or some kind of resource support.
Most of the grants that we have received have been in partnership with the city. Occasionally, there's some areas right outside the city in the county where we've gotten water and sewer lines that were able to be upgraded because we got the income census and they did qualify. I would think that there might be a chance or a fire truck for the city of Lancaster or Heath Springs because they're both LMI, but they're going to be servicing other people outside. Well, not so much for the city, but in Heath Springs,
1%.
it would be servicing people outside the city.
We could look
For
at the
town.
income surveys in those areas then.
You said a couple of times that these are competitive. Are there specific types of projects that seem to be more successfully accepted than others, or does it just depend on the nature of the project?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a type of project. We've had sidewalks, fire trucks, parks, water and sewer. I think it's just more how ready you are and can you show that you have a good track record with
Gotcha.
projects in the past.
Yeah, we've had quite a few projects done in Lancaster, Brooklyn Avenue.
Yeah, Lancaster's done a great job.
Midway,
So.
Tried Emerald Estates because we wanted to get the infrastructure redone. Had to do a survey and didn't get enough participation, so that project went away.
Any other comments?
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you. And we'll put together updates to the list, or you can email us and let us know, and we'll revise the priority needs. Thank you. Have a good evening.
And we're going to move on to Item 7, our consent agenda. To have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D, and 7E.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mosteller and a second by Ms. McGriff. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8A on the non-consent agenda. Public hearing and third reading of ordinance 2025-1950. An ordinance to authorize and approve the execution and delivery of a First Amendment to the amended and restated fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Lancaster County, South Carolina, and Care America Corporation, and to provide for other matters related thereto. This is passed 7-0 at the March 10th meeting, 6-0 at the March 24th meeting. Ms. Carnes, you're invited to the podium.
Before Ms. Carnes comes, do you want to do the motion in the public hearing?
Yes, please. Have a motion to go into public
So
hearing.
moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Ms. McGriff. All those in favor? We don't have to do the voting. Well, okay. No one signed up for the public hearing, so I'll call the public hearing closed. You may proceed, Ms. Carnes.
Good evening, County Council members and County Administrator.
Well, actually, one more time. We did the motion for the public hearing. I think we need the motion to have the item. Is that
So
correct?
moved.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just make sure.
Okay, we need a motion.
So move.
Second from Mr. Neal. Any questions? All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion. I asked if there was any questions.
And/or discussion. Are we good?
We're good.
All right. Before you got the First Amendment, which specifically addresses the clawback payments and the disbursement of the repayments. There are no changes to the total amount of the clawback or the due dates of the repayment. Only the amounts of each payment have been adjusted to coincide with the specific tax bills, which will then align with the delinquent tax office processes. No other amendments are included, and the Economic Development Department recommends approval of third reading of ordinance 2025-1950.
Okay, do we have any questions? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8B, second reading of ordinance 2025-1951, an ordinance to authorize the execution and delivery of a special source revenue credit agreement by and between Lancaster County and an entity identified by the county as Project Block, including any related or affiliated entities, providing for special source revenue credits, and to express the intention of County Council to provide monies to the Economic Development Fund. Mr. Fulk.
Good evening, council members. For second reading, you have before you ordinance 2025-1950.
We need to do a public hearing.
There's no public hearing.
Just
we
motion.
need a
It's a
motion and a second, and then
So
discussion
moved.
before this begins.
You have before you ordinance 2025-1951 to authorize the execution and delivery of a special source revenue credit agreement. This agreement runs for 20 years. Project Block is a subsidiary of a European entity and has operations throughout the United States. They purchased an existing building, 30,000 square feet, and site in a multi-county park, purchased 20 acres in District 1. The site is zoned HI heavy industrial. The company manufactures architectural stone products that might be found around a pool or outside the living area. The company plans to invest $21 million in total and employ 30 people by the end of the 5-year investment period beginning in 2024. Most of the investment will be made in terms of in new equipment, approximately $14 million. Failure to meet either the investment or jobs commitment shall result in a termination of the SSRC at the year of the miss and retroactively. The company commits to a minimum investment of $15 million and 20 employees. Average wages by the end of 2025 are expected to be $26.69 per hour, and with full production, the project will show an hourly wage by the end of the investment period of about $22.32. The company's benefit package is generous, with the company providing medical, dental, vision, and a matching 401k. Together, these benefits are estimated to be about 35% of total wages. In the agreement, council commits to provide SSRC incentives equal to 25% for each of the 5 years. To effectively obtain a fixed millage, there are 2 calculations for the final SSRC, which I will not go into detail now. But with the 25% SSRC, the county is offering $319,000 in incentives over the 5-year period. These incentives will end at the end of 5 years, but the property tax stream will continue for many years. So specifically over a 20-year period, the county will collect almost $3 million, having abated taxes of about $319,000. To summarize the benefits to Lancaster County and constituents, the company will employ 30 new workers, not just moving workers across one state to another. The company will pay property taxes that will help lessen the tax burden for residences. And the project seems to be a best use of this particular site because the site does not have access to public water, wastewater systems. The project results in exceptional return on investment for the county. The Economic Development Department supports this project and requests your affirmative vote for the second reading of Ordinance 2025-1951.
Have any questions for Mr. Volk? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to item 8C, second reading of Ordinance 2025-1961. An ordinance to approve a First Amendment to the development agreement between Lancaster County and Crosland Southeast for a mixed-use townhome, multifamily apartment, and non-residential development project known as The Exchange upon approximately 130 acres of land located at 8918 Charlotte Highway, Lancaster, South Carolina, establishing the regulations for the development of the property and other matters related thereto. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Mosteller, a second by Ms. McGriff. Ms. Williams.
Good evening, Council. Tonight we have the second reading, as Chairman Carnes said. This thing has a mind of its own here lately. As we discussed last council meeting, this is a request from Crosland Southeast to increase their overall square footage of commercial space in the Exchange by 10,000 square feet. This is in response to an MUSC request to have an off-site medical office located in this park. We have decided, planning staff determined that this was a moderate amendment to the development agreement, which was a requirement to come before you. So that is why we're here, for you guys to deliberate on that option. This is primarily in response to the added benefits of a commercial area that has a large retailer there. Market data shows that a lot of the larger retailers bring in lots of other commercial area in a condensed area. We do still recommend approval of this amendment to the development agreement, and there are no changes from the first reading. I am available for any questions, and the applicant is here as well if you have any.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. And we're going to move on to item 8D, public hearing and resolution 1292-R2025, a resolution to approve the favorable recommendation of the Lancaster County Planning Commission of a conditional use application to permit a school, primary and secondary, use to be located upon tax map number 0049-00-082.02 All Shiloh Unity Road for the purpose of constructing a K-8 charter school. Planning Department case number was CU-2024-2612. The Planning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote, and the planning staff also recommended approval of the conditional use application. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Have a motion for Mr. Luis, a second by Mr. Neal. Having no one signed up for public hearing, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We'll move on to the discussion. Ms. Williams. Well, we need a vote to approve the
So moved.
motion. Vote by Mr. Luis, a second by Mr. Harper. Ms. Williams.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The second item that I have before you tonight is a resolution for a conditional use for the Cogito Academy. They're looking to place a new charter school located on the site that is outlined in red here. It's 22 acres located on Shiloh Unity Road. The applicant, Mr. Gill with True North K through 12, is also here tonight and will be able to answer questions if you have any after my presentation. Mr. Camposio is the owner, and this is currently zoned professional business, and the future land use is identified as municipal growth area. This parcel is located across from the racetrack in a currently undeveloped vacant wooded lot, and they operate a school. I said it already. One more back. Thank you. The designated future land use map as municipal growth area will be in line with this conditional use. Municipal growth areas are for institutional purposes as well as educational and religious. The surrounding property, as you can see from the chart below, it's surrounded by general business, low-density residential, and and institutional. There's a church nearby as well. The plan on the right side of the screen is their intended plan for the site. This plan has received approved comments from the TRC. They've met all of the UDO requirements. They have the Type B buffer that will be stated in the ordinance. They have elected to use the option in the UDO for multi-connectivity trails instead of roadways because of the intersection. They don't want to have connectivity to an undeveloped parcel with school children there. So they have shown the connectivity via trails. And they do have, one of the outstanding comments prior to the Planning Commission was the buffers, but they have addressed those. They did receive their TRC approval letter on March 7th from us. All of the comments have been addressed, and this meets all of the requirements from the Planning Department as well as the Water and Sewer District. We recommend approval of this continual use application to permit a charter school. The Planning Commission heard this item and recommended approval as well at their March 18th meeting. As a side note to that, some of the comments were addressed that the concerns about the racetrack. The applicants can answer more of that, but it was stated that the hours between the school running and the racetrack are separate, so they don't anticipate a problem with that. But if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those, and as I mentioned, the applicants are here as well.
Have any questions of Ms. Williams?
I got a comment for whoever.
Weisteller?
I want this applicant to understand this racetrack's been there since, Mr. Baker, early 50s, 50s, 60s, I don't know. It's been there forever. And they're grandfathered in to be there as long as they're in operation. And I just want to make this clear. I know this school's going to be open when the racetrack's not in use, so there shouldn't be any issues with it other than some dust and noise that they're going to have to just put up with because the racetrack is not going to close. I'm not going to support ever of this racetrack being, it's been there so long. And it's the only place in Lancaster other than parks that we got that families can go on weekends and take their families for entertainment. So, I mean, you go by there on Saturday night and it's just packed full. I mean, people, Lancaster residents support it. So I would like, are there any, Ms. April, are there anything we could do for the applicant to sign an agreement that they're going to be understanding that they're going to be neighbors with this racetrack? And I don't want no complaints of people coming up here with dust and noise. are there such thing as the applicant would agree to sign it, for the racetrack, being good neighbors?
I think I would like to defer that question to the county attorney as to get into legally binding contracts.
We'd have to look into that, Councilmember Mosteller. I'm not sure off the top of my head that would be proper under this, but we can look into it for you for sure.
I just want some protection for the racetrack, just somebody don't come back in here and filling up the room and start fussing about dust and stuff up there. That's just, we need to solve it now before it goes any further, before I vote on it. They need to understand, and I would like to hear the applicant come up and tell us that they would be friendly neighbors with the racetrack.
Hey, good evening. My name is Cameron Gill. I'm with True North K-12, representative of the school.
Roddy Jordan with True North K-12. So we have met with Mr. Baker and at the racetrack. I can't stand here and speak on behalf of the school regarding legal matters, but what I can say, and you mentioned it earlier, the racetrack, as I understand it, operates March through October on Saturday nights. The school is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. is hours of operation, obviously through the school year, August through May. There's slight overlap at the beginning of the race season, at the end of the race season, but nothing over the weekend. The school does not have any organized sports that operate in the evenings or on the weekends. It's simply K through 8. We don't foresee there being any sort of conflict with traffic. To your point about complaints about dust, there is the site plan is 22 acres. The school is occupying 14 of the westernmost acres. So there is 7 acres on sorry, I said that backwards. They're operating the 14 acres to the east on the property. There's 7 acres on the west side that is undisturbed, that will provide some sort of vegetative buffer between the curve of shallow unity, which is more or less due south of the racetrack, and the school. We also have landscape buffers that we will be required to install and plant along shallow unity. So over time, there will be vegetative along the property of the school. But as far as a legally binding contract to say that we're good neighbors, I'm not sure what that looks like. Certainly would like to entertain something if that is available. But we're not here to cause trouble. We're here to teach kids.
I understand that. I just don't want have any controversy between y'all and the racetrack, and I like to get it worked out at an early stage of it.
Yeah, I don't love the site, but there's clear need within, at least in my opinion, of school options within Lancaster County. So I'm excited to have another option within the county related to school.
Yeah, Ms. McGriff.
I agree with Billy. I am in support of the schools, but down the road, you know how people tend to complain. If that comes before council, we want you to remember the racetrack is a legend in this community. They've been here that long, and people enjoy it on a Saturday night. So if they come back to us with a complaint, we're not hearing it.
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity for the school and the racetrack to find something to come together on, whether if it's a student race night or something at the racetrack. We're not here to cause trouble. We want to be part of the community. And the racetrack seems to be an integral part of that community. So let's figure out a way that the school and the racetrack can coexist.
I would suggest that if you're looking for colors, I would suggest red, and you'll fit right in.
Fit right in. Red brick.
Mr. Chair.
Red parking lot.
Go ahead.
I just want to say something and highlight something that you just said, and that was we want to be part of this community. So we all recognize that there is a need for schools here. I think we also recognize the history and the importance of the racetrack. So you saying that is extremely important to me, and it matters a lot, I think, to this council, that you want to be partners and you want to be part in this community. You're just not going to be here to develop a site and then be gone. So thank you for saying that.
Mr. Collins.
Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
I agree with everything that's said. You know, the racetrack's been here. I'm 66, and I can remember going there with my dad way back in the 60s. You know, it's going to be there, and there is definitely a need for the schools too. So I think there can be good neighbors between both of you.
I think you could have a Racing for Success theme and work with the folks at the.
We can draw to.
Mr. Chair, you want to do some marketing?
Yeah, I'm good at
You all
that.
need a marketing person?
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
If
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. DuPont would maybe check on the matters of that
I
before
certainly
second
can. I
reading.
can tell you, looking at the UDO, there's nothing like that in there, but we can certainly look and see if there's some other way that we can do something if it's available.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Neal.
I definitely agree that we need to school, but I tell you, I won't do anything to hurt the racetrack. That's the institution there. It's been there forever, and I hope it's there for many more years.
Well, hopefully 50 years from now, you guys are saying that the charter school is an institution here too. So.
Awesome. That'd be great.
If we're all sitting up here 50 years from now, that'll be history.
Yeah.
I think Doge would be looking at it.
Yes.
Any other questions? If not, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8E, public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2025-1962. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Lancaster County to rezone approximately .488 acres of a parcel identified as TM number 0086D-OC-001-00, which is located behind 1831 Great Falls Highway, from the medium-density residential district to the general business district for the purpose of combining properties under unified ownership. The Planning Department case number was RZ-2025-0072. Planning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote, and the planning staff also recommended approval of the rezoning request. We need a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Mr. McGriff.
Second.
Second from Mr. Harper. No one signed up for public hearing, so I'll declare the public hearing closed, and we'll move on to the discussion. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion from Ms. McGriff and a second from Mr. Harper. Ms. Williams.
Hello again. This is a rezoning of a small property. It's less than half an acre, located where the red outline is. For those who have been here forever, you guys, this is the old Piggly Wiggly site. We are looking to conjoin the property here to solve some non-conforming issues on the property. So as you can tell by the picture in the middle, that the stars on the site are buildings that have been built, and they didn't necessarily observe the property lines when they were built. So the owners are getting ready to market this property for sale, and they noticed these issues. So they have reached out to the property owner of the red, which is the rezoning item here, to purchase that property in order to combine those parcels together to solve the non-conforming issues. So instead of having them tear down all the buildings, they're just buying the property and fixing it that way. So in order to do that, they have to rezone that property that's outlined in red to the general business so that it can be combined. You can't combine parcels that aren't zoned the same. The pictures on the bottom are pictures from the site, from the side, and looking into the property. This is the site plan. Their plan is to reconform this as a minor subdivision. And the approval of the minor plat is, everything else is good other than the rezoning option. As we mentioned in the initial introduction, it is currently zoned MDR, but it backs up to the general business, more specifically the general business that we're wanting to attach it to. This is located close to the city, and it is identified as a growth area. This fits the comprehensive plan, and it would solve those issues that we've mentioned. So because of all these issues involved, we have requested and recommended approval of this zoning request to rezone this 0.44 acres. We took it to Planning Commission in March, and they also recommended approval unanimously. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, this will correct several non-conforming issues, and the site will be able to be marketed at that time to sell and revitalize the empty property. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions from Ms. Williams?
No, just a comment, that's the old Piggly Wiggly and Family Dollar, and those buildings will not be rehabbed. It's a great location, especially with everything that's going on down around Edgewater, and it's a great opportunity for a commercial on that corner.
Okay.
I agree with Councilman Hopper. Get some commercial in there, maybe another, maybe some restaurants or another grocery store come in and stuff. That area, because it is really booming in there.
Any other comments? If not, we'll have. All right, thank you. We have any other comments from the council? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it passes 7-0. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8F, public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2025-1963. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Lancaster County to rezone approximately 0.73 acres, TM number 0086C-0M-003.00, which is located at 1754 Old Carter Street from the manufactured home district to the medium density residential district, MDR, for the purpose of building a single family home. Planning Department case number RZ-2025-0191. The Planning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote, and the planning staff also recommended approval of the rezoning request. We have a motion to go into into a public hearing.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Luis. We have a second. Second from Ms. McGriff. Having no one signed up for public hearing, we will declare the public hearing closed. We'll move on to Ms. Williams.
No, we got
to have a vote. All those in favor of going into public hearing?
We got to.
No, we need a motion for first reading of the
Oh, okay, sorry. Motion for first reading.
So moved.
Mr. Harper?
Second.
I think I heard Mr. Graham over there. All right, now we can go on. Thank you.
Thank you again, council members. This is my last item for tonight, and it is another small rezoning in order to fix some non-conforming issues. The property highlighted in red on your screen is currently zoned mobile home. It is less than the 1 acre that is required for the mobile home zoning, and it also has a stick-built home on it. So for all of those reasons, it does not fit the mobile home zoning. So we are requesting, the applicants are requesting it to be rezoned so that they can subdivide it into 2 lots and build 2 single-family homes. The future land use of this area is growth area because it's close to the city of Lancaster, and that is something that will fit in that section. As you can see from the pictures there, the old house there on the site is in disrepair and can either be demoed or repaired. But it is zoned improperly, so we can't give them permits to do anything at this time. Again, there's another aerial screen of the property where it is and in relation to other zoning properties. This area is also in the city of Lancaster and again, well, close to the city of Lancaster and is identified as a growth area in our future land use map. This is in line with the request for rezoning. So the maximum would be 3 lots total that they could subdivide. So there would not be a high impact on traffic or schools. None of this would trigger any kind of TIA or anything for this. It's access off the old Carter Street. Water and sewer is provided by the city of Lancaster and is readily available. We did recommend approval of this request to rezone the 0.73 acres located at Old Carter Street from manufactured home to MDR, primarily because of the non-conforming issues and the need to update that. And we took this to Planning Commission in March, and they also unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Ms. Williams? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous, 7-0.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8G, third reading of ordinance 2025-1958. An ordinance to amend the Lancaster County Code, specifically Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 2, Rules of Parliamentary Procedure applicable to council meetings, including committee meetings, and all boards and commissions for which county council appoints a majority of members. This motion passed 7-0 at the March 10th, 2025 County Council meeting, passed 6-0 at the March 24th, 2025 County Council meeting. Mr. Harper was absent. Ms. Merck DuPont, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion for Mr. Luis. Second from Ms. McGriff. Ms. Merck DuPont.
Mr. Chair and members of council, what you see before you this evening is your third reading of the ordinance to change your rules of parliamentary procedure in some aspects, as we've discussed many times. The second reading passed unanimously, as Chair Carnes noted, so therefore there were no changes made to the ordinance that is before you, but I do understand there may be some discussion this evening, so we're prepared to handle that this evening if you would like to go forward with that.
All right. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a few questions and comments.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Luis.
In section 2-44, at the end of the first section that's been approved, where it says, which actually should be lowercase I, in accordance with schedule prescribed by council and made public, I'd like to add pursuant to applicable law.
All right.
And Councilmember Luis, I think that is on there in the what is included in the agenda. It's actually there.
I thought I just looked at it.
What I'm looking at in front of me is the bound edition of the agenda, and it is there on page 280 of 319 in the entire agenda that comes up on the Civic Plus.
So I'm looking at the online version, and it is not in those. So now I don't know which are the changes that are in there and which ones are not.
Well, I don't know. It's there in what's in the bound edition. I can't tell you why there's a difference between, the technical, but what I'm looking at in front of me is the bound edition provided by the clerk to council, and it does say that. It says, in accordance with the schedule prescribed by council and made public pursuant to applicable law. It is there. That was what was submitted to the clerk to be included in the agenda. Yes.
Yeah, yep. What it doesn't have is the I. Sorry. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
That one's already made, Councilmember Luis, so we don't need a motion for that or an amendment for that.
I'm not making any moves because I just want to have the conversations now, and then we can make any motions at the end. In subsection 3, let's see, of that 2.45.1, 2-45.1, number 3, where we say any council member may participate and vote in an open council meeting remotely, but will not be considered present for the purposes of a quorum. And so I was just wondering if council felt comfortable kind of removing that so that it would count as a quorum.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Ms.
number 1 in that section requires a quorum to be physically present for the meeting to occur and for the electronic participation to occur. So that is one reason that is there. The second reason is because a meeting is defined in FOIA as a quorum, and it can be physical or electronically. So therefore, that's the distinction there to say that you may participate, however, you're not considered part of the quorum, so that you can actually do the electronic participation, or so that we can go a little bit further with FOIA, that we are not saying that the quorum can be mixed both electronically and physically.
So we need to have physical presence for quorum, or we can
Number 1, a
have?
quorum of the body must be physically present at the meeting location in order for someone to participate electronically, yes.
So the question is, do we want to change it and then amend number 1 so that it allows for an electronic quorum?
That would be a discussion amongst
Yeah.
council.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
I wasn't here last meeting, but the 2.46, the agenda, the red line version say the policy agenda items will be set by the council chair. Why we've always, the chair sets everything in the past, and that's limiting it, and I'm not going to support anything that lessens the chair's power to see what's presented before council.
It says the policy agenda items will be set by the council's chair in consultation with the county administrator.
The policy agenda items, you get the first words. That's not the whole agenda.
But that's answered somewhere else, isn't it not? The agenda is set by the chair in consultation with the administrator.
It's taken away. Any policy items will be set by the chair. Anything else,
So I agree with Mr. Harper, and I had that comment as well.
I agree with that, but the policy agenda, would that not also include the agenda?
If you read on in that sentence, final approval of the agenda is by the council chair. So I get what you're saying with the word policy there.
So we can just take out
I mean, totally up to you if you
we
want
can
to
take out
remove
the
it.
word policy.
I think the the confusion is around policy.
I would like to make an amendment to remove
Policy.
policy agenda.
And we have an amendment by Mr. Harper, and a second. Go ahead, Mr.
I was going to say, can we just make the amendment in one shot so we can do all of them that are coming through? I am.
Okay.
I agree with that.
I just noted that there is a typo there. I don't know if that's been corrected, but
There are a couple of typos that I think we can
On
fix.
that agenda, the change is we're taking out policy, right?
Correct.
Okay.
we have additional items, Mr. Lewis.
So just going back to the quorum.
Okay,
So
hold
do we want to have an option for electronic quorum?
You know, when,
I think I like options.
so
I mean,
in other words, if you are doing your meeting virtually, you're not considered in the quorum?
So let me be clear here. You do have in that next section, 245.2, electronic meetings that can be conducted. So you can conduct an all-electronic meeting. This one is alternative attendance for one or two of you to not be present physically, call in, Teams in, whatever it is. But this is requiring that you still have a quorum of you physically here to have the meeting. Otherwise, you're having a complete electronic meeting. So you've got two sections here. One is talking about alternative attendance for you to be there electronically, but requiring the physical presence of the quorum. The other one is an entirely electronic meeting. So you have both options there on the table.
So the two options are all physical, all electronic right now.
Quorum physical, some electronic, or all electronic. Two different options.
Or quorum, all physical, one is electronic. For quorum,
Confusion is.
There's two sections.
yes.
The alternative attendance by a member is saying you have to have a quorum physically present, and then one or two of you or three of you could participate electronically. That way you can actually conduct the meeting.
and be considered in the quorum.
You've got a quorum to have the meeting.
Yeah. You got
You're
to
not
have four
considered, if you're
present.
electronic, to
Right.
be part of the quorum.
That's under 244. For quorum, it has to be physical. But you will not be considered present for purposes of the quorum if you're coming in electronically. So it has to be a physical presence.
Correct.
Quorum.
That's correct. That is correct.
And then 245 is all electronic.
All electronic.
And it's
That-
all electronic quorum.
And that's a holdover from COVID, but
Right.
obviously in today's day and age, that's something that can occur as well with technology.
So what I'm saying is in option one, to create the alternative attendance, to have an option to also have electronic quorum capability.
No, you're saying, Jenny, if it's five people virtual and you've got, let's say 4 virtually and 3 here, that's not considered a quorum.
That, according to, if you've got 4 present here and 3 electronic.
No, 3 here.
You got it flipped, then no, ma'am, you can't have a
Okay.
meeting that way.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you're saying you want the quorum to be virtual also? You can have,
I'm just saying for that 244 option to have a hybrid so that you could have physical and electronic to count for a quorum.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is why make the distinction? What are we trying to solve for?
you know, if we get into an emergency, I think that's doable. If we find ourselves in an emergency situation where we can't be present, like COVID, you know.
Yep.
But under normal circumstances, I'm in favor of a quorum, physically quorum, and then virtual, the minority virtual. That's
To
just
have an option, you're saying to have the option. to have-
option.
Okay.
And also keep in mind that these are also applicable to your appointed boards and commissions. So then someone could be an appointed member, but always be virtual. Yeah, so just
So
something to keep in mind. Yeah.
whatever rules we vote on will carry on to the commission.
And it has to be the same. We can't apply different rules.
Correct. There is a standing ordinance outside of this, in this section of your Code of Ordinances, that says all of these rules of procedure will apply to your boards and commissions as well.
Yeah, if that's going to, it'll cause a mess, and we can look at it, yeah, we can look at it later if we need to make a decision. Section 246. Do we have, yep, you added that here. That just needs to be corrected. 247. So 247 has the restrictions. It's the item added right before section 2-48. The notwithstanding any other provision of these rules, no person may address the council about any matter council has previously heard at a duly called public hearing as long as council has the items on its agenda, including tabled or held items. So I just think that's going to restrict us some, so I just wanted to make sure council was okay with that provision. Or not.
I'm okay with it. You know, when I read that, I was completely in favor of that.
Okay.
This is in regards to citizens' comments, so.
It is, and so it would restrict, and so part of it is, how are we going to enforce this so it's consistently applied, which means every single meeting, we're going to have to make sure that we're doing this, because if we don't, we're then going to be violating our.
Well, you bring it to their attention that they're not speaking to what's on the agenda.
I understand, but there are.
That's the chair's responsibility.
Well, to my knowledge, it's been the policy of council to allow those who are signed up to speak in public hearing to speak what they want to talk about in public hearing.
Well, I think public hearing is for a matter that
I mean,
requires a public hearing.
public comment, I'm sorry, not in public hearing, but in
That has been, this is added language that is simply attempting to more streamline your meetings because you only have a finite amount of time you have defined in your rules of procedure for citizens' comments. So if you've already had public hearings, people have the ability then to speak on the public hearing. So
Is this during the same council meeting, or are you talking like?
It can be any. Once you've had a public hearing, it's asking not for those people to continue to come back to you after you've had the duly held public hearing, unless there's been a lapse of time or some other thing that triggers an ability for them to come back before you because there's been a lapse of time since the time you took it up and had the public hearing. This is simply something that other jurisdictions use as well to streamline because of the finite amount of time you have for those public comments that you have set by rule.
Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
I'm very leery of limiting citizens' comments. I sat in that chair for a number of years, and everyone that comes to this meeting has a right to speak. And we have never denied anyone that chance. And very seldom do we go past 10:30. So I can't support any, they're limited to 3 minutes. But when somebody wants to come speak, I just, they deserve that right.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Ms.
I think when people come to speak in citizens' comment, they usually speak about what's on the agenda. We have had people to come very seldomly speak about something that's not on the agenda. It's the responsibility of that chair to say, that's not on the agenda tonight. You're going to have to come back when it comes on the agenda. I think it's a mistake that the citizens make whether it's going to be on the agenda. So I think we should stick to what's on the agenda. Now, if the chair wants to allow that to happen, that's left up to you.
I think in past discussions that we've had, discussions where we would not require it to be on the agenda, just to the fact that we don't want to stifle public comment, as Chairman Harper has talked about, because we've had a number of items that have come before us that are not on the agenda, but we've heard them in public hearing. We have a finite time for public hearing, and that's 30 minutes. We can't extend it at the end of the meeting, but we do have a finite time in there, and those people that sign up to speak are given the rights to their 3 minutes within that time period.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
We've never cut anybody off and made them wait after a meeting.
We've never cut anybody off, but we've had people to come before the citizen comment that spoke about things that had nothing to do with county council. And at that point, we discussed maybe we need to do something about it because we're not national or state, we're local. People are tending to come speaking on national concerns. That's not us.
Well, and I think we did all have that discussion, and at the end of the discussion, we decided that we weren't going to do anything about it because it was sort of few and far between. And we haven't had any of those issues in probably 2 years now, so.
Okay.
So what are we going to do? I mean, if you're going to make a recommendation.
I would be in favor of just striking it, was what I would do as an amendment, but we can do that as a separate amendment if you want to.
I think
and then
we
handle.
can separate that one.
Okay. Section 248, the end is similar, where we have the presiding officer may terminate a presentation that is covering the same information as presented by a previous speaker. So I just wanted, Mr. Chair, just get your thoughts on that because it involves you and it's a right, it adds it.
I think we have encouraged, in the past, we've encouraged people that, if somebody spoke on something and you're going to say the exact same thing, just give your time to somebody else because we've already heard it the first time. And,
Not give your time, but give up your slot because.
or either, it's their right to come up here, I guess, and say what they want to do. But, basically saying the exact same thing that 3 other people in front of you said, I think we've gotten the point by that point in time that we could use additional worthwhile information to help.
And this gives you the option to terminate those speeches. It's not a restriction, but it gives that option.
Right.
So that's why I felt a little more comfortable with that one, but I just wanted to make sure that I called it out.
Yeah, I think it's good to leave it in there to allow the chairman to at least make a statement that, we've heard from 3 different people on this same subject. It would help move things along and give other people time to speak if you bring up different points.
Okay. Yeah, no change to that one. I had in section 249, where we talk about the clerk to council shall post via the county website and report to council at each regular scheduled meeting via report all impending vacancies occurring within 30 days from such meeting on county boards and commissions, which council has, it says, legal responsibility to fill. I'd like to change responsibility to right, because it's.
And there again, that was
it's already-
changed in what was included in the
Sorry.
agenda.
Okay. At the end of that, we have the section that talks about as the council appoints boards and commission members shall not speak and or address such boards. I think that one I'd like to have just as a guidance document as opposed to a rule that's part of our ordinance. Because this definitely is more, it's giving some restrictions, and although it's drafted as guidance, it's in the same section, it's just the last paragraph.
Page 289 is the page.
12 of 23.
And again, also keep in mind that these policies apply to your boards and commissions.
Correct. But this is a specific restriction on members of council appearing before boards and commissions. So I'm concerned about this one.
Well, if you do appear, you appear as a citizen, not as a
Correct.
council member.
And we make that decision, we make that statement. This is actually making statements of how we should appear and kind of adding that as a requirement as opposed to a choice that we have in what we're saying. It's just adding some restrictions.
I'm not understanding that, Jose. You want to.
So it's adding restrictions to how members of council will speak before boards and commissions as opposed to giving us guidance.
Well, we already know that when we speak before commissions and boards, we speak on personally. We can't come as a council member to speak. And we have to, if we speak, we have to speak on behalf of Charlene McGriff, my personal opinion. Yeah, so I'm not understanding the confusion.
So, for example, second sentence is saying members of council are further cautioned against appearing before such boards and commissions in their private capacity as a citizen or business owner, business person.
But it goes on to say, any appearance of a council member before such board or commission in their private capacity as a citizen or business owner, business person should be limited to those issues or concerns,
Right.
matters which impact the council member on a personal or business level in order to avoid the appearance of impropriety due to the dual nature of the member of council's standing within the county. It does have that further clarification.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't have.
You should only speak on your personal.
Maybe the first sentence there, maybe you could change shall to should. That takes a little bit of edge
Shall
off
not
of
speak
it.
or should not speak. You're saying.
Yeah,
take
I
that
think
shall.
should takes a.
Did you hear that, Jenny?
I'm sorry.
I was saying in the first line there, maybe change shall to should because should to me takes a little bit of edge off of it.
Okay, we can do that.
if Councilmember Luis is,
Jose, you okay with that?
I'm okay with these. I'm just bringing it up because it's, again, this is adding restrictions to what council members can and cannot do in front of boards and commissions. My recommendation would be, instead of having it in the ordinance, that we have a separate kind of guidance document. Because if anything changes in applicable law, otherwise, this would still govern, and we would still be governed by this unless this ordinance is
And
amended.
we'll deal with it at that time.
But we are not, how many times are we going to go back and look at this ordinance and say, wait a second, law changed, we're going
I
to,
have no problem with it if we change shall to should, and I'm okay with it. You can, put it in to amend, however, but I'm good with the policy and the citizens' comment, but I'm not good with that.
okay. Later on in 250, that's just a typo. So that gets fixed. And then there was just one more. Section 2-60, the very end talks about any member found in violation of the rules of parliamentary procedure shall be liable to censure or such other punishment as the council may deem proper upon 2/3 vote of the body. I think there was some concerns about language like that. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Which part of it?
It's 2-60. It's page 21 of 23, the very bottom.
Discipline of individual council.
Yep.
Or page 298 of 319.
You're reading the any member found in violation, that's where you're
Correct.
at?
Yep.
Of the rules of parliament shall be liable to. So what's your position on that? Why you?
I just think I'd heard before that we handle that on our own. We don't need to have something here that's drafting that. But again,
I don't have a problem with it if, I think we'll handle it this way, and we probably will handle it on our own too. But I think we'll have to handle it on our own before we get to this point.
this would require us to handle it this way.
Yeah, but I'm saying, even if we handle it on our own, this is going to require that we do it formally.
We can't do it on our own. This would require us to do it this way.
Don't care. I mean, either way, I'm okay with it.
Any other comments?
So how do we feel about this one?
I'm good with it. When I read it, I was the only one that I thought about was the one on policy. That was the only one that I thought about once I was reading it. The rest of them I didn't have problems with.
Okay. And what other punishment, what does that mean?
Is that language taken from Robert's Rules of Order, or is that
Not necessarily.
not necessarily? I will say that we have been blessed in Lancaster County. I don't think they've ever had to discipline a council member. There might have been a few that came close, but there are councils in the state that that this could be exercised at every meeting, just about.
Yeah, other than punishment, if that word is bothering, maybe we could say consequences, or is that word bothering you?
I just don't like something that I can't define, that I don't know what it means.
Well, I'm sure you won't be the one that we will censor.
You're going to have to go through a whole lot of other things before that happens.
I just think we could do away with that, because if somebody does something to break the law, they're going to be suspended. or,
But still, we need something in our local ordinance stating that. And if we don't do it, so what's the problem? If we don't need it, it's there, so.
I think I'd feel better if it was just the censure. It's these or such other punishment that just opens it up
Yeah, that
and has no.
punishment is bothering you.
It's not even the punishment, it's just such other. It's, what does that mean?
Liable to censure as to whatever council deems necessary.
Yep.
You want to take out such other punishment, Jenny, would that still be read correctly or give us what we need?
Yes, ma'am, because before that, in the language that was not amended, you'll notice that it does have another 2/3 vote for a member to be removed from an active meeting. So that's another form of punishment that's there. And then that would be censure as well. So that's just an additional punishment per se. But certainly you can take that language out that says such other punishment.
Let me ask a question, since we're taking that out. Is that not the responsibility of the chair to remove a council member if they misbehave or disruptive or anything?
So your rules actually have that being something that you all request to be done.
Okay.
So that, for these rules now, I have seen other jurisdictions where a chair does have a little more power in that, but your rules don't give the power to the chair. They give it to the body and a supermajority, a 2/3 vote. It's not a simple majority.
Okay.
I would prefer that we keep it with council because, you know, there could be a conflict between the chairman and a person on council, and the chair could exercise their authority improperly and focus on that one person, whereas if it's reached to the level where you're going to have 2/3 of the council vote for it, then there's definitely an issue, and it's not just a personality thing between a
I brought it
chair
up
and one
because
other person.
I have heard other councils talk about removing a council member.
There've definitely been some around the state.
So what, Bill?
They have been so.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've got the amendments.
All right.
Sherry and Jenny, if you just check me on this.
Just two.
No, there were a couple. So in
Oh, yeah, there's a couple that, it's for action.
in section 246 agenda, to remove the word policy. So I'd like to make an amendment to revise the ordinance as follows. 1, section 246 agenda, remove the word policy. In
Citizens' comments next.
Did we do that? Were you, no, that was a separate amendment.
Oh, was it?
Yep, you had asked for a separate amendment on that one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In section 250, change, oh, you already said you already did that? Change as the council in the last paragraph, as the council appoints boards and commission members, members of council should, as opposed to shall. And then in section 260, strike the phrase "or such other punishment" from that section.
3.
And I believe, Mr. Chair, that's his amending motion for the moment. So he's made the motion. We'd need a second. Any discussion?
All right, we have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. McGriff. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous.
Okay,
Have a second.
then I have a second.
Well, we need to return to the main motion again, which is third reading as amended.
Okay,
And then, Mr. Luis, if he has another amendment, we can make it at that time.
Okay,
we're going to return to the main motion, third reading as amended. We need a motion.
Yes.
We need a motion
so
to.
moved.
It's amended.
Second.
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Luis, a second from Mr. McGriff. Any discussion? All those in favor?
No, wait,
No,
I believe that's where he wanted to make another amendment. Yes.
Now I do the second amendment, which is in section 247, the very last paragraph. I would strike that addition.
Okay, we have a second amendment. Do we have a second to that amendment?
A second.
Have a second from Mr. Graham. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment?
Yeah, that's the
It's all of-
All those in favor of that amendment, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous.
Why'd you make me separate it if you were going to vote for it?
Yippee. I mean, listen, I was
Okay.
gonna be it was gonna go anyway. I was gonna be the only one voting.
Okay, we're going to go back to the main motion now.
No.
We have a motion to accept the second amendment to the main motion.
You just voted on
Yeah.
the Second Amendment. Now you're back to the third reading. as
So
amended.
moved.
As amended. This is getting confusing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, they need a motion as amended now.
are we ready to vote?
You need a motion on the new amended.
moved.
Motion on the new amendment. We got a motion from Mr. Luis.
Who
You
said?
going to second it again, Charlene? Stuart's already done it. Okay, we got a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Mr. Graham. Do we have any discussion? Hopefully not. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, Jesus.
Next time Charlene says separate it up.
If you're not gonna win, vote.
Okay, now we're going to move on to item 9A, discussion and action items. Item A, receive information and take desired action regarding removals from various boards and commissions. Ms. Simpson.
Bear with me.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council. So we are asking to remove two members from two different boards. The first is the Catawba Regional Workforce Development Board, Josephine Jabakumar, I guess is how you say that. We do not believe, or the person in charge of the Regional Workforce Development Board does not believe she works for Rico Industries anymore. She's not been in touch with the person that's over the board, and so she would no longer meet the requirements to serve on that board. So we're asking for her removal. And then Dr. Deborah Curitan, they are asking for the removal from the library board. She's missed more than 3 meetings. They are actually very sad to have to do this, but Dr. Curitan does have some health concerns, so.
All right. We have a motion to
So moved.
have a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Ms. McGriff. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It passes unanimously. Okay, item B, receive information and to take desired action regarding appointments to various boards and commissions. Ms. Simpson.
Mr. Chairman and council members, so we're going to do these by board. So the first one is a reappointment to the library board for Phyllis Jarvis. She's going to be representing District 5. I would like a supermajority vote of council on this. This will only be her first term for District 5, but because of redistricting, she had previously served as a District 4 representative. So if you take all of those terms, this would actually be her 4th term overall.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Mr. Graham. Do we have any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Okay, secondly is the reappointments to the Historical Commission. We have Richard Van Hall, Patricia Clancy, and Dr. Zora Denson. All of these folks are currently serving unexpired terms and are asking to be reappointed for their first full 4-year term. And then Dan West, representing District 1, and Fred Witherspoon, representing District 3. Again, both serving unexpired terms, asking to be reappointed for their first 4-year term. And then Joe Greer, he actually would be serving his 5th term as representative for District 5. That would require a supermajority vote of council.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve Mr. Joe Greer.
We had to separate them out, or can we?
That's what, yeah, it's separate because it requires a supermajority.
And I
Okay.
second that.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Harper and a second from Mr. McGriff. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right.
So we need the
Motion
other ones for the.
remainder.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second from Mr. Harper, motion from Mr. Luis. Any discussions? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Okay, then the next one is a reappointment to the Van Wyck Fire Feed District Board. David Basri, this would be his 2nd term, but his 1st term was only a 3-year term. Just when we created the board, some folks had 3-year terms, some had 4. He was a 3-year term, and he is chair of the board.
Make that motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Graham. Have a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Luis. Any discussion? And hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Okay, since y'all did remove Miss Jabakimar, I know I'm saying her name incorrectly, we are asking to appoint Hunter Fail in that unexpired term. She does work for Nutramax Laboratories, so she would meet the requirements to serve on the Regional Workforce Development Board.
Okay.
Approved.
Have a motion from Mr. Mosteller. Have a second.
Second.
Second from Ms. McGriff. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by right hand. It's unanimous.
And then the current board vacancies, that just is, we give that update for you each time. And then your upcoming term expirations, that does not include what you've done tonight. So that's just an update for you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. We're going to move on to item 9C, discussion of a transportation sales tax referendum proposal. Mr. Cato and Mr. Marstall.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, it's great to be here this evening. We wanted to come before you with a proposal, again, on another transportation sales tax. We took input from the council retreat back in February, and CTC met on March the 28th to take another look back and see what could be done to possibly do another transportation sales tax. And in that, Chairman Carter could not be present tonight. He wanted to come up and speak in support of the work they did, but CTC member Timothy Curitan is here this evening and wanted to be here for support. He doesn't want to speak, he just wants to see something happen, hopefully. But anyhow, again, we'll go through the presentation quickly and entertain any questions you may have at the end. We'll cover a lot, but we'll go kind of quickly to respect the time of everyone. We've been here a while, I guess. Again, Lancaster County has 1,400 miles of publicly maintained roadway, the majority of it being the maintenance responsibility of the South Carolina Department of Transportation. We have, funding. There we go. And then from 2018 to 2024, that's when really, the gas tax has finally been raised some. So you got some additional C funds, as well as capital sales tax 2 had some roadway projects on it, as well as a proviso 2, capital sales 2, and capital sales tax 3 has about $13 million worth of roadway improvements on. But funding for the improvements have always come from those items. Prior to that, it was just basically your transportation committee. Your current funding estimates, again, the CTC proviso should be completed by 2025. We only have 2 items left on it. Capital Sales 3 funding, those projects have started. We have some contracts out on the street for that being worked on, and that's about $13.2 million. And then the CTC generally brings in, it just really, I guess it depends on how much gasoline we sell in the county versus the formula. But it generates about $1.4 million a year now. Road fee, it generates about road fee generates about $3 to $3.5 million, but $800,000 of it is designated to the pavement preservation project and some stones, some preservation for the rural gravel roads as well. That was the one-time fee when it was raised back in 2019, I believe. Again, with all this being said, you still have a lot of projects out there, a lot of roadways that need improvement, a lot of transportation issues need to be addressed. Again, well, like everything else in the county, infrastructure, the growth affects us all, but the growth is really county-wide, not just in certain areas. Okay, so the first proposal we had back in November was about 25 years for $405 million. It was the max that we would go for. We put it all in, and CTC came up with a recommendation. Staff worked well with them, and this was kind of the buckets or whatever, or how you would say it. Because again, it is a transportation tax, not a capital sales tax. So if you would have put all the 125 plus projects on the ballot in the precincts that day, it would have, like Johnny Cash said, the title would have weighed about 9 pounds. So this was the areas they were. Obviously, the biggest one was Highway 521 and some major widenings there. I'm having fun with that. Okay. But anyhow, the different buckets, and again, the highway widenings were one. You had a lot of local road paving on that, and then we kind of got some direction as well as some reserves and comments from the retreat that council said, roughly a 10-year, whatever it could generate kind of deal, maybe 230, 240 million, seemed pretty good. So we had direction there. You all had kind of said something like, still with the 60 million for 521, that project, it will happen one day and it will be costly, and the county will have to have some type of match for that. 100 million for municipalities and county roads. Again, looking at widening some other roads for collector road type status to get some congestion, particularly off the 521 corridor. Henry Harris Road was mentioned, Harrisburg Road was mentioned. And again, some money to possibly offset the road fee. CTC discussed that a little bit. That's more of a policy item, so they'll just kind of, lead you all to that. That can be a separate or concurrent discussion with as we move forward. But a road fee over 10 years is going to generate about $35 million. And then some direction was given for some other significant projects in the southern part of the county. And again, we've talked with all the municipalities, and we did get a lot of feedback. A lot of people called afterwards and said, what was all this? What would happen in my area or my road or this area of the county? And we found in looking for like significant projects, which was, like your Henry Harris or your 521, most of the rural section of the county, they just want to see roadways improved, whether it's state secondaries or road within the municipalities or outside of them. So this is an excellent funding source to help address those needs as well. And then again, you'd have to have, it would be, a sales tax would be a big program, so we would need some admin. Definitely, we're talking escalations here. We've, talk about that a lot with everything these days, it seems. So that was kind of what we took from the retreat and went forward and looked at the old presentation. So we tweaked that down a little. And this was what
Yeah.
It's going wild, isn't it? I love that. There we go. The CTC, like I said, they met and they knew they weren't reinventing the wheel, but they realized the significance and importance. So this is more of a, with lack of a better term, a scaled down version to get this thing started. They proposed actually $70 million for Highway 521, $85 million for municipalities and county roads, and then they had another major widening project on there because we had, if you recall, on the last one, we had 4 or 5, possibly more on there. They seem to lean more towards Barberville Road. They did have some money in there for some roundabouts, and then they, kind of cut the other things out, the state secondary roads. They really grouped everything into just the big $100 million project for roads. There's municipal, state, or out in the county, or some smaller intersection type improvements. Greenways and sidewalks, signalization, mast arms, those things were all discussed. And then some miscellaneous things that could come through there. There's always going to be something to come up. So their total came up to about $216 million. We brought that back to staff, the administrator, myself, and we kind of discussed these things. And then staff kind of took that recommendation and tweaked it a little. We can go to the next one. All right, that is pretty much really hard to see. But that is in a gist every project they talked about. So those are, whether it's a roundabout that they approved over in the far right, or it's an individual road, or it's a group of roads in a town or a municipality, or roads just.
So Jeff, these are the roads that will appear on the referendum, or those are?
Not all of them won't.
Those are the roads that y'all discussed?
No, the referendum, and to defer to the county attorney a little bit, we do not have to place all this on the referendum, but this is the education we want to get out there with that. Those are actually projects that they considered and would like to see done.
Okay.
All those roundabouts and stuff is not on there, is it?
No, sir. I think they cut that down. I believe there was like 15 million in there, and they cut back to maybe 7.5 in requests.
That's what I was telling Charlene. Everything that's on that chart there is not on the referendum.
Yeah, no, that's the entire chart from the last time.
But
Last time.
this is from last time?
It's from last time, but in the far corner, you see how they're tallying up. That's the individual roads they approved. Like, if I might can see one. I doubt it, but let's just say West Church Road there. I think I read that one. That's one that they said, hey, let's keep this in there. Again, it's probably a total road rehabilitation. It's not a widening, a turn ramp, or anything like that. But there were some on there they kept.
Because people want to know whether their road
Absolutely.
is on the list, even if it's not printed, that we have a list that we are referring to.
Yes, ma'am. And one area we do want to address is absolutely the best we can is that kind of falls into the education component of it. And that would be something where we would be available. We have a Fix Our Roads group that donated and helped some to this. This is where we would like to go out and educate folks on it. So you have these out there. These would be, obviously candidates. Now, do we know if they go in year 1 or year 10? That's for if it passes, we have to prioritize that and, set a program, basically.
Dennis, talk a little bit about the time frame and the fact.
We have that at the end. If we go through a couple more slides, we can talk about that.
So I'm sorry, just on this one, so, I'm sorry, the totals, you have a 14 million and then the 7.5 million. So what's the 7.5 million?
I believe the 7.5, Councilman Luis, are the areas that were basically your roundabouts that they, yes. And then,
You have a list of those roundabouts, locations, right?
yes, we would have to prioritize that list because they typically run around $3 to $4 million a piece. So that's 2-3 roundabouts involved in that. So that's the CTC recommendation. And again, staff, after the 28th, we got together and looked at it.
More. There you go.
Okay, the staff recommendation, again, what we did with that, the major differences in it is, it did increase some. A lot of that increase, again, is built into probably more of the resurfacing county, state, municipality roads. It's probably built in more than that because, again, you're talking about two separate items here with the loss of a road fee. You lose all of your preservation and all of that. So with that, and staff also put in a little bit for greenways and sidewalks to go along with this. That's just, again, when you talk about transportation, we didn't not want to include pedestrian transportation. So that's, again, and this is something just a presentation, a recommendation to council.
So that's staff recommendation. What was the last one you showed? Go back
Last
to
one.
the
Was 200 and,
Was CTC, yeah.
CTC. This
yeah,
is.
that is
This is y'all's recommendation, right? And that's
Then-
staff's
Yeah,
recommendation.
with that one too, what staff did, one of the biggest changes is instead of Barberfield Road, staff felt like Henry Harris Road was, we switched those, we replaced those. We took Barberville off the staff recommendation and put Henry Harris on there. And again, that's just in ages to come. We know something's going to happen to Highway 521. But what's going to happen to get folks off of it, what we've discussed before in development services and all of our consultants, some type of collector road system. Henry Harris is a good one to start, staff felt like, because number one, too, staff owns the section in the middle. County does. County maintained, and then DOT owns the north and south end.
That would help take some traffic off 521 all the way up to Marvin Road.
Yes, sir, and that would
Especially
include,
during, if you could do Henry Harris first, that would allow you to have that as a relief point for any work that's done on Highway 521 at that point in time.
that's right, Mr. Chairman, and you could also, with Henry Harris, you can phase that project into 2 to 3 separate phases and have it going either prior to 521 or possibly even concurrently with 521.
Yeah, I am concerned just because we have no relief on the other side of 521 with Harrisburg or Barberville. And those are major intersections where a lot of schools are going in as well.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cato, can you highlight, though, Harrisburg Road is getting some attention from the state?
Yes, Harrisburg will be getting, I believe it's probably just resurfacing only, possibly the 2-foot shoulder widening as well, but there is no immediate plan from DOT for any widening of Harrisburg. Same as Barberville, but Harrisburg's going to see possibly as early as this summer a resurfacing effort from the SCDOT, probably down to the, I believe that's the Calvin Hall roundabout there to the state line. The part from Calvin Hall back to 521 probably won't be resurfaced at this time, but there is plans for that from the DOT.
Henry Harris will be a 3-lane, right, but just have turning lanes.
Would be the anticipation on it, yes, is to have multiple, have at least a center lane in there to have it a 3-lane road.
So we've got 2 recommendations here. We're gonna have to decide which one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go back again. I wish you had both of them side by side.
No, I wished I could have put them side by side, but I'm having hard enough time seeing them one at a time.
Well, and actually, the difference is, through the staff recommendation, we put more money in the miscellaneous. We've heard about utility expenses, other cost escalations. If this is a 10-year program, we want to make sure that we have money in there to accommodate a 10-year program for miscellaneous. You will see that the swap out for Henry Harris versus Barberville, and then you'll see $2 million was added in the staff proposal related to greenways and sidewalks. I think those are the only 3 differences between the 2 proposals.
What's more important, Barberville or Henry Harris?
I mean, I think I don't know, obviously, something has to happen on 521. When we talk about a 10-year term on 521, $91 million, how does that money, when does that money have to be spent, I guess is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to put in my head how long that project's going to be and what that looks like and how that looks like in relation to this 10-year term, I guess. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It will be, no matter what happens, and something, will happen to 521, obviously, at some point in the near future.
This is contingent on, this is just a county's part.
Yes.
Yeah.
The state,
Understood.
the state infrastructure is going to have to kick in.
Is there more towards Barberville and Harrisburg?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going. My thought is that the way that I would hope that we can set this up in terms of having the trust of the citizens and having a successful 10-year term, that this is how we fund roads holistically in Lancaster County for the long term, similar how other counties, specifically York County, has continued to do that. So to me, I'm wondering if we can maybe spend, is there a way to do a phased approach on 521 that gives us good impact, but opens up possibilities to make more impacts on some of these, on some other roads, and that this 521 project's going to be something that happens long-term over whatever, 20 years or something like that, and that it opens up money that could be impactful. I guess my nightmare is that 521 is under construction forever, and everybody just knows that it's a road that's under construction and it never gets finished. That's my concern. Without any real relief and traffic, that's where I have concerns.
And I think going along with what you were saying, because do we need the 70 million for that first 10 years, or are we going to be in planning stages for most of that time, not getting to that point, whereas we could, if we implemented, let's say, 20 million each for Harrisburg and Barberville out of the 70 million, provide relief on those corollaries, and at the same time be still moving forward on 521 with the plans, but we've already provided relief on the exterior roads.
I mean, I think the other part of it is, I think there's some things that we maybe, I don't know, a strategy on 521 of not being very selective of putting lights, reducing crossover traffic and closing those lanes. And I mean, that's what I'm saying, is there are other things that we can do that might not cost as much money that would allow us to make more impacts on those other roads. The other question I have too is, I believe there's $10 million already funded for 521. That's correct?
Capital Project Sales Tax 3 does have $10 million
$10 million
set aside
sitting there now.
specifically from the state line to 160.
So it's
it has to be-
specifically for widening or
Or a
for
project, transportation project.
improvements from 160 to,
State line.
And Jeff, can you, speaking to what Stuart said, can you plan in phases? Because we know what the total cost is going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we reduce the cost to whatever, can we plan in phases, waiting on the next pot of money to come down?
That would be discussions, we would have to have those with the SCDOT, and they will administer all of the work and approve all of the designs for 521. The county doesn't own nor maintain Highway 521, but they're going to have a match, so to speak, to get to that program, and that's where we came up. In fact, that's why staff recognized we already have $10 million to go specifically toward the state line to 160. That's in Capital Sales 3 to be programmed when it becomes available. But we cut back from 70 million to 60 million for 521 just by saying that we feel like that is plenty of our investment, so to speak.
I think one thing that we definitely need to do as part of that administration arm or pot of money is we need to make sure that at some point in time we hire a traffic planner, because I think that's a major investment that we could make, as Mr. Graham was saying, about how we're going to prioritize roads and develop roads in the county. If we're going to use this money, we need to have a transportation planner that can be planning in the future about, once we do this successfully, hopefully the voters will see that we've done it successfully and we've got a plan already in place for the
That's
next
correct.
phase.
That's correct, but with that as well, hiring a transportation, a program manager is what I would call it, that to use money from this would have to go strictly toward the transportation projects. They couldn't be looking at, helping development services, because I know they have the need for some transportation as well and are trying to fill it.
I just think we need a holistic approach for the whole county, and the only way we're going to do that is to have a transportation planner that
I mean, you're talking about, that's a big chunk of money there. I mean, I think we, as a county, need to devote more resources to make sure that those funds are spent appropriate. I think that's what we're saying. To me, it doesn't really matter how that happens, but if the county's committing to this and basically devoting more funds to roads, then we need to devote resources to make sure that happens correctly.
Mr. Carnes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harper.
Chairman Carnes. On the other one, miscellaneous, we got 35 million here. What is the miscellaneous on the other one?
13.
13.
To me, that's warning. That's not going to be enough. And it's just example on, I think on, when it come down to like Rise Lane, even that's probably $500,000 to move a water line on a short road. That $13 million, it's not going to go too far. Does that include moving utilities?
If you have a widening, it could, but yes, that miscellaneous, again, it was just left over from the last one. We could probably get that money designated into one of the other pots to let you know where it was,
Yeah, I'm just, my concern is when we start doing, especially like 521, that we really need to look at the cost of the utilities, because that could be a budget buster on
The projections,
anything.
the projections for 521 that were put together by RFATs included the thought of what utilities you're going to have to look at. But, again, we were looking at doing the widenings mainly in the middle of the road, so you're more limited at that point in time to stormwater and things like that you've got to deal with. There's going to be some areas where you've already got turn lanes and things like that you're probably going to have to widen out and bump out at that point. And at those points, you're going to hit utility issues.
I talked to, I've told y'all before, one of the big utility companies, and they told me it would take $8 million a mile to move water and sewer, power, internet, all the utilities.
Again, we're at least on 521, we're not going to be touching those things because they're all already off to the side of the right-of-way. Even if we expanded, you would hit the water and sewer because they're closer to the road, but all the power lines are way outside what you would consider.
Can they get 2 lanes in that center?
Oh yeah, you could get 2 lanes, and in most places you could get 2 lanes and still have probably some buffer space in the middle.
So we did want to highlight, Sherry, if you'd advance that to the staff one. Remember, when you think about York County or different things, is that the transportation sales tax was structured differently by the state legislature than capital project sales tax. Because again, for the very reason, capital project sales tax have to go in order as funds available. The transportation sales tax, and why we had the bond question on there, was you can move those projects in tandem. We can be moving 3 projects at once. They weren't in priority order because if you tie up $60 million for 521, we could run into the situation where if people vote for it to when they're driving on a widened 521, could realistically be 8 or 9 years or more. So just keep in mind though that the time frame of 10 years is a revenue collection period. So the projects can go until they're completed, but the revenue will stop either when the money's met, the revenue's met, generated, or the time frame. So we're suggesting 10 years. Looking at so you hear the revenue projections, is that we basically have a 9% escalation for the sales tax, knowing what's come. We've averaged 9.2% growth in the sales tax over the last 15 years, I believe. So we do have that escalation on there.
Do we know where we stand with the state on 521? Where is this located on their priority list?
Yeah, that's the other issue.
For RFATs, it's at the top of their priority list now. Right now, until we have funds to match.
What about the state?
The state, from all the conversations I've had with the state in RFATs meetings, they're all in on this, again, as long as we can get the infrastructure bank funding part of it.
Yeah, so part of the process is we'd have to make an application to the state infrastructure bank to receive if we give in 60 million or 70 million, whatever it is, then ask the state, maybe some federal support, but the infrastructure bank to cover the remainder of that.
How much would we ask for in that, the state for, in that?
Well, once we do the final design, and we said last time, basically 2 years ago, the 7.5 miles, one lane each direction of 521 was looking at roughly $125 million. So once they do the final design, then we'll have the final cost to know what to apply for the difference from what we commit locally.
On the capital sales tax 3, that this 10 million is approved, aren't there a timeline that this has got to be done?
Yeah, the 7 years is the collection period for capital project sales tax. So some projects can go a little bit longer, but they have to go in revenue order. And so if the revenue's not there, then you can't start that project. But once the revenue's there within 7 years, then we'll start the project to make sure we have the funding to complete the $10 million in work.
My understanding that 10 million went from Marvin Road north. That's what it was designated on the
That 160, is it Marvin or 160?
Marvin Road
It was Marvin to one
Is it? Okay.
state line.
state line.
Because they did they're doing the intersection work right now at the Marvin Road intersection. And that's an example. That went from a $3 million project to do that Marvin Road intersection at 521 to a $7 million project.
So if we were to move forward and we collect the 215 million, whatever it is, 253 million, within 7 years, can we start another transportation tax at that point, even if some of the projects haven't been completed?
Yeah, that's my understanding from the state legislation.
Because what happens is when you either breach the time or the money, it's over with.
Is that typically how it's done, is the time or the money instead of just the time or just the money? Oh, I guess it wouldn't be just the money, but you couldn't do like a 10-year collection period without defining the amount?
That's correct, I think. Yeah, you have to name the amount, so.
Once you collect that, it's over.
Right.
7 years, and then we can start
So,
anew.
Mr. Marshall, are you suggesting that we should be thinking about a bond along with this to start using funds faster?
Yes. That's how we had the last one structured, that has a component for the bond, because that way we can commit however much million you want to 521, so we can start the state and the funding process and saying, we're committed to this. Let's get the design going, let's get the final, and then let's get whatever the state funding is going to be. So it will help us advance the 521 project instead of waiting until it's collected or you do other projects first. We can kind of commit that and set it aside.
The hesitation I have is that there was definitely it seemed like there was voter confusion over that two-part question. So I guess what I would be interested in, is there a way to use, especially on 521, is there a way to use that $10 million to start some of that process prior to collection? Because we have it with the capital sales tax 3. Can we start going down that path with those funds, knowing we've got other funds? And I guess what I'm asking is, what would be the impact if we did not go the bond question route, and what would be that impact if we didn't go down that path?
I think the bond's an integral part of this, and the only reason I say that is, you need to have results for people to see that you're working. And to do those projects, to get enough money to really start doing them, you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years unless you can commit to a bond, and that way you can start projects as quick as you can get them ready at that point in time. And that.
No, I know. It seems like a lot,
It's not going to do that.
but it doesn't go
It
very
seemed
far.
like a lot when we talked about it.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
if this moves forward, when would it be on the ballot?
I think the time frame.
Oops.
There we go. Here's your potential timeline. We would need a voter's registration approved ordinance by August 1st, 2025. September, October, we are using everything and everybody to educate people on the education campaign. And then the general election, election day in November, it would be on the ballot for the voters.
Mr. Chairman, my only concern is the voters told us no last year, and I don't know if I can support 12 months later putting it back in front
Been
of them.
5 months, and soon as we approve it, it's going to hit social media and the newspaper in 5 months' time. So that's the only thing, the kickback on it is a little bit early. It's still on people's mind. They done said no, and they're going to say, why are you bringing this back again? I think 2026 would be the best time, give us time for more planning and getting things sorted out and regroup and have more time to advertise this. I think we rushed it. Last time it was rushed. We went into this and we had Jeff and them to come up and give us a list. We're in a hurry, and then it had to get the voter registration and didn't have enough time to get it out to the citizens and really sell what you were trying to do. And I think you're going to run into this problem again in 2025. Because it's rushed.
I don't disagree. I feel like we're in the middle of, we're still going through budgets. We're just seeing this. We still have the UDO. There's a lot going on, and that's a tight deadline.
I mean, my only just comment on that is, and I've said this to everybody that is listened to me, is that I can't support residential growth north of the city of Lancaster without an approved and funded roads plan. So that's just so you know where I stand on specifically residential growth if we don't have something in place.
You know, I do think we need this transportation sale tax. We need it. But, you know, as we talked, when we were talking with the school board, and as we talked at our retreat, time frame means everything. And we don't want to rush this to the voters. We don't want to put this together to lose. Whatever we do, we want to win. I think the more time, if we give it another year, if we do the 2026, I think we'll have time at least to get through some hurdles, some other budget discussions and things like that. But I do think our constituents is going to say, this is too fast. They're going to be thinking about.
I don't know. Some of them in Indiana might not be thinking that way.
But
I know a God that wouldn't be thinking that way.
not just talking about Indiana.
I know we're not, but we put a lot of houses up. We put Costco and all those things up there, and you know, to people in that area of the county, we put that stuff there very quickly, but we sure didn't put the infrastructure there to support it very quickly. And I think that is a majority of what I hear every single day.
Now, we can move forward, but.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean.
We're going to lose. I mean, when we move it and when we put it on the ballot, we want to be putting it there with some assurance that it's going to pass.
I understand the concern. I'm just, you know, every single day when you talk to someone in Indiana, their number one concern is traffic and roads. And we've got Costco, hospital, Target, number of other retail that are coming, specifically in one section of 521. I mean, it's rough right now. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like in a year. And now we're, you know, I mean, that's the.
Make a difference. I mean,
That's right.
It's going to be
It's be 10 years getting
I understand that. I mean,
521.
we're late. We've been late as a county on this. And we, like I said in the beginning, we were fast to approve these things, but we have not been fast to put the infrastructure in place. That's been the frustration of most people in the Panhandle. I understand your concern about going 12 months and you're really bringing it out 5 months after the vote or 6 months after the vote. But I mean, that's the other, I'm just presenting the other side of that from the Indian perspective, at least from what I hear every single day.
I think whatever we do, we need to make sure we put the time in to get out and meet with the public. And I don't even know if it's educate. It may be educating us.
We're here all the time.
You know,
Mr. Chairman,
it
if
may
I
be
could.
educating us, getting out, but we need to get out and talk to the public. Case in point.
And can we do that at a 2-month time frame?
I can. I talked. I mean, you tell somebody they want to talk about roads, they will. You can talk to people about roads.
I
mean, case in point, we spoke to the Leadership Lancaster group here, and one of the little projects they gave them was, we may do a road bond. Y'all tell us what you would do in 15 minutes. And we had a couple people came up during the process and said, I voted against this the first time because I just thought it was 521 and some other stuff. If I had known everything else that was on here, I would have voted positively. So we have to get the information out there. We can't depend on the fact that people are going to know. And we need to be
in 2 months.
That's the question. I'm saying whether we do it in 2 months or whether we're going to do it in 14 months, we need to be out there consistently meeting with people and getting feedback from them and providing feedback to them as to what we're going to happen, what we're going to do. And then once we successfully get this ready to do, we have to execute it and make sure we do what we tell the people we're going to do.
I mean, I'm speaking to 3 to 4 groups a month, and that is the number one thing that people want to talk about every single time. I mean, it's kind of like when I go through that, what I'm talking to, and it's kind of like a running joke. I mean, it's the biggest thing by far that people want to talk about in the Panhandle area is roads. 100%.
I'm going to tell you, putting 2 more lanes on 521 ain't going to cure the problem.
And that's why I'm not. I was saying
It's
I'm
just still gonna
not.
be
I'm not sure
congested
that
just as it is right now.
I don't disagree with that, and that's why I was saying that I'm not sure that spending as much money on 521 is going to give us the most bang for our buck, and there are probably some other things that could be done. That would lessen the burden of 521, and that's why I'm certainly not a transportation guy, but by any stretch. But I think if 521 is an artery instead of a connector, then you've got to cut down those median crossovers and make sure that you're going and up and down that road versus every single time you're somebody can make a left-hand turn, which is slowing stuff down. So I guess what I'm saying is if there's more of a strategy on how we are using 521 and stick to that, I think it seems like that would make some difference.
No, it is April, and we don't have a strategy yet that all of us are agreeing to. So how long will it take us to come up with a plan or a recommendation before we get into educating the community? Because I tell you, if we put this out here again and lose, we can forget it. It's not going to happen.
Mr. Graham's point, crossovers and things like that will be definitely narrowed down the number of them. You can't successfully do a program without doing that. And the second thing that we need to think about is putting in longer turn lanes to get people off the main line of traffic. That will do more to move traffic than you know, or we'll do a lot to move traffic if you can just get them out in line of traffic.
And who will make that?
More storage in the turning lane.
See, who will make that decision?
That's all part of the design process at that point in time.
And that's part of what I'm saying, that between now and August 1st, are we going to have enough time to do the analysis that you're talking about, to review how much it's going to cost, to do the allocations? It possible? Yes. Likely? I'd
Say it, no.
Well, I mean, I think that's why I go down the path. I think the phrasing of the question obviously is very important, but to me, it's really a long-term solution. This is how Lancaster County's funding roads, and I mean, I just in the back of my head when I see the roads that are on those lists and we talk about this, I'm thinking about, what about all those other things that are going to pop up over the next 5 to 7 years that we're not even thinking about right now? And we sit there and lock ourselves in right now, and you're going to be like, man, I really wish we would have been able to set aside some funds for this project because, A, maybe it's an economic, whatever that reason is. I mean, there could be other things that happen. That's part of my concern as well, is that if you lock your, obviously voters got to know what they're getting. So I completely understand that, but it is a.
Putting in some pots of money for unspecified things is good, but you've got to have things out there that the voter can hang their hat on. And again, we have to make sure that we execute what we say we're going to execute
within a quick time frame. And that's where when I look at a 70 million for 521, we absolutely need to have that. But if that's not going to happen within the first 7 to 10 years of this project, we're going to have major problems because we're going to lose trust.
I mean, again, I can't support anything until we get this thing solved. So if we're saying we're going to kick it again, that's fine. But that's where I will be and where my support will be with anything that comes up.
Just take into consideration on this, and then I think I hear what you're saying, if you don't mind making it clear to me, but it sounds like we're not going to move forward with November of this year. But also, too, as you alluded to, Mr. Chairman, and all of your comments, I get it. Timing is going to be everything on this. But this type of referendum has to go on a general election. So it has to go in November. So you don't know, you got school bonds out there that might go on a special election. We could be talking a few years down the road about a capital sales tax where things are, like Mr. Graham said, things are going to come up. We're going to need to fund. I'm not ashamed to lose year after year until we get it passed, but as being on the Public Works CTC end of this thing, until you get something like this, we're going to be having these same discussions every year, and you're going to get more and more of the complaints about your deteriorating roads because we don't have enough to fund them. We got $13 million in sales tax 3. That's good. There is not going to be any extra C-Fund money this year. That's bad. But you have that out on the street. You're going to be finished with your proviso in 2 in the next year or so. After that, you're going to be back to where the county's end is only going to be C-Funds unless we find some other means to fund it. Like I said, York County for a model, even though theirs, you could call theirs a transportation tax now because they're on pennies 5, 7 years. Those are capital sales where they just do roads. They don't do jails and other things that are needed in this county with the capital sales. They take their capital sales, they just do roads with it. So timing is everything, but if we're not going to move forward, let me know and we'll start planning for 2026.
And the thing to remember with York County is that their penny sales tax percentage of vote has increased every time they've had it, and it's because they delivered what they said they were going to do.
To some extent, they're doing.
I mean, the last couple of times, the last 2, I think they have hit escalation because of inflation and COVID and things like that. So it has tarnished things a little bit, but this last one, I think, hit a higher number than the last one they did. So.
It was the most confusing ballot I ever seen in my life. It was.
Mr.
Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
Chairman, so where do we go from here to do you ask staff to prepare an ordinance and let council vote on it with both options and see if it moves forward, or do you not move it forward, or?
My preference would just to move forward, and if that's, you know, if we're gonna delay it, then we delay it and we vote that way to delay it. And we've got two options here, so I think we should.
I agree with Councilman Graham. Move forward with it and see what happens.
I think we continue to analyze it, review it, and then make a decision once we've gotten more information. I just don't think we have enough right now.
So what I'm hearing is let's keep moving in the direction we're moving. At some point in time, we're going to have to make the decision of whether we're going to do it this year or next year.
Well, you got to have it in front of us by, it really needs to be the second meeting in May, because you don't have but one in July, and then that gives you 4 to pass it and 3. 3 to pass it and 4. Realistically.
That's right, because we have one meeting in July, so 2 in June. So it would have to be at the first starting the first meeting in June.
Yeah.
And not to confuse things, but we have not had a conversation about how you view the road use fee. If that's a separate topic, but input on that, you can also offer on that.
I mean, I would support dropping it if this is passed. Is that the question?
If there's conversation about doing away with the road use fee, how will we generate $35 million? We've not added $35 million to the transportation sales tax.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna drop it, we're losing $35 million over 10 years for a road repaving. If you want to drop it, you can add it to the transportation.
I would add it to the transportation.
However, our revenue forecast for 10 years will be stretched.
To me, that's how you fund roads in Lancaster County. So we need to put together a package that deals with funding roads in Lancaster County so people understand where that's coming from. And I think it just needs to be accounted for in that proposal.
I think you would have a better chance if the road fee is dropped.
Yes, I agree.
Got to make sure you make that money up, because that's what does our
What I'm
dirt
saying,
roads.
yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be in that proposal. I think we need to account for it, so it's very clear to citizens what's happening.
How much does that road?
They'd have to know if it failed that road fee's going to continue.
Correct.
I mean, because if it fails, they're going to think that road fee's going to stop, but it can't stop. I mean, we can't operate this county.
And
the biggest
that's a
part of
harder
the
message, I
budget.
think.
Yeah.
But it'd be 3.5 million is what the road use fee generates on an annual basis, roughly 3.5. So over 10 years.
Yeah, but a portion
Well, if it fails, we don't get the roads, and you still got to pay the $40.
I know, but a portion of that is going to resurfacings and stuff right now, so that, you know, we already got resurfacings and things like that built in here, so you might not have to do the whole 3.5 million. Whatever you're doing for the operations and stuff, then that may have to be figured in there. All right, I think we've discussed this enough, and we'll go look around one more time. Anybody got anything to say?
Next step, that's what I want to know. When are we going to finish this discussion and have some definite decision about which way we're going?
We can
next meeting or what?
We can put a discussion on for next meeting, and we'll take a vote up or down whether we're going to do it this year or we're going to move it out to next year.
Or I might suggest, if you want, we could next meeting, we can have some more information to you, or if you want to add it to your May Committee of the Whole, which is May 14th. We can talk a little bit more and see.
The only thing is that we can't take a vote on it.
Correct. But we can bring then, based on the conversation, we can bring you a first reading.
It's May 14 budgets.
That's part of it, yeah, that's part of it.
We ain't gonna have time to do nothing else but the budget. So let's not put this conversation on with the budget. We will not give it enough time. Now, let's not do that to ourselves.
We can come back on the 28th and see what additional information we have for you.
All right. Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Luis.
Mr. Chairman, can we add to that motion to invite in the members of of Economic Development staff, please?
I'll read out all the stuff here if you want me to. I was just trying to move things along. Okay, we need a motion to go into executive session for two items. One, receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding a potential contractual matter related to an economic development project, Project Janus. Receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding potential contractual matters relating to the county fire service. And we will invite economic development staff into executive session.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Luis. We have a second. Second from Mr. Neal. All those in favor? We are in executive session. Vote is 7-0. We are out of can I get a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Luis, a second from Mr. McGriff. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. We are out of executive session.
Mr. Chairman, council met in executive session in regards to 2 items. The receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding a potential contractual matter relating to an economic development project, Project Janus, and receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding potential contractual matters relating to the county fire service. No motions were made, no votes were taken.
Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.